Greg, not here today. Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the April meeting of the West Sacramento Area Flood Control Agency. To start, would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll begin with item 1, which is the approval of the agenda. And
I'll move approval.
okay, I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Public comment on matters not on the agenda. Is there anyone wishing to speak on items that are not listed? Seeing none, we'll move on to the approval of our March 21st, 2019 meeting minutes. And I'll make the motion for approval of the minutes.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded for approval of the minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Report out of closed session.
The board met in closed session to confer with legal counsel on 2 items of anticipated litigation disclosed on the closed session meeting agenda. In connection with the first item, the board authorized counsel's retention of a consultant. In connection with the second item, no action was taken.
Thank you. Review of monthly and year-to-date revenues and expenses. Jen.
Good morning, members of the board. I'll be reporting out on the revenue and expenses for the month of February 2019. In Fund 870, the beginning balance was approximately $8.7 million. There was no revenue for 870 that month. Expenses were $387,000, and the ending cash position for 870 was approximately $8.4 million. With Fund 871, the starting balance was negative $13.1 million. Our revenue was $76,000, and our expenses were $355,000, making the ending position for 871 negative $13.4 million. Looking at the year-to-date position along with the remaining advanced state funding, the combined cash position for 870 and 871 is approximately $15.4 million. As of April 5th, 2019, the agency's combined cash position is approximately $14.7 million. This concludes my report. Do you have any questions for me?
Questions? No, thank you very much, Jen.
Thank you.
Lost my place. Consent agenda, items 6 through 8. Do you have any comments, or?
No, but I will move the consent agenda.
I will second that motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries. Item 9, consideration and approval of plans and specifications of award of a construction contract for the Southport Levee Improvement.
Good morning, Chairman Ramos, members of the WSAFCA board. I'm here this morning to request that you approve staff's recommendation to award River Partners as the lowest responsive and responsible bidder for the Southport Floodplain Restoration Project. Staff is also recommending that you grant the authority to the general manager to approve change orders for up to 10% of the contract value and authorize $5.2 million to carry out the floodplain restoration plans and specifications. As you know, floodplain restoration is the 3rd phase of the Southport Improvement Project, following the construction of Village Parkway as Phase 1 and the Southport Levee Project as Phase 2. The bid and plan sets were made available of February 14th of this year. Mandatory walkthrough was held 2 weeks later on the 28th of February. 8 firms attended the mandatory walkthrough. We had a session here. The area is very inundated at the time, and so we still went out and listened and took notes from the various people who were in attendance. During the bid process, we did issue two addendums, one to provide a list of contractors that attended the bid walkthrough, and the other was to reaffirm the fact that WSAFCA was procuring the plants for the project, as well as other responsibilities. These were questions that, again, were gained from the field in the walkthrough. We received no formal comments while the bid was open. 5 contractors submitted bids for the floodplain restoration project. Staff and the design team reviewed the submittals thoroughly, evaluated each contractor's qualifications, licenses, project examples to determine the lowest responsive and responsible bidder to make this recommendation today. By recommending the contract to River Partners, we respectfully request that you reject the bids from Empire Landscaping and Habitat Restoration Services. Both contractors submitted projects that didn't meet minimum criteria for size and/or contract values. Therefore, they were considered non-responsive to the bid specifications. In closing, we did receive a bid protest from Hanford ARC. Hanford ARC was the 4th lowest bidder. The protest was sent to the WSAFCA attorney, who provided an analysis of the protested elements. Staff reviewed the protest and believes that the items of being protested are without merit. Staff consulted with the city attorney, and based on that consultation, and as we've discussed, we stand by the recommendation of River Partners as the lowest responsive and responsible bidder.
Okay. We have one speaker for item 9, and that's Gerald Dion. Hope I said that correctly. With River Partners.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Gerald Dion. I'm Vice President at River Partners, and I just want to say thank you for this opportunity. We look forward to working with staff to make a great project that WSAFCA and the city can be really proud of. So thank you again.
Very good. Okay. Any other questions for staff or anyone else? If not, I will make the motion to accept staff's recommendation and approve River Partners for the contract.
I'll second the recommended action.
Okay, first and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations, do a good job. Item 10. Consideration of Resolution 19-04-05, adopting findings and facts for the acceptance of the general reevaluation report.
02 or 05? 02.
And Resolution 1904-02, Borough to push to pay fees associated with the filing.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the board. For the purpose of the California Environmental Quality Act, WSAFCA is the lead agency for the General Reevaluation Report, Environmental Impact Report, the GRREIR. As such, the SIREM requests several actions of the board through the adoptions of Resolutions 19-0401 and 02. The actions are to adopt the findings and statement of overriding considerations for the West Sacramento General Reevaluation Report as required under CEQA, adopt the mitigation monitoring and reporting program for the EIR, certify that the GRREIR is complete, direct staff to file a notice of determination with respect to those actions, and to accept the General Reevaluation Report and the report's conclusions. The GRR is intended to meet the requirements of CEQA. It describes the features of the proposed plan, impacts on resources, identifies best management practices and mitigation measures to reduce any effects to less than a significant when possible. The findings and statement of overriding consideration provides a summary of the GRR, EIR, and the environmental review process. It contains the findings of fact by the WSAFCA board for each significant environmental effect of the project identified in the final GRR, EIR, and a statement of overriding considerations that articulates the board's rationale and support for its determination that the benefits of the GRR outweigh unavoidable significant environmental effects. The mitigation monitoring and reporting program will be used by WSAFCA to ensure that the mitigation measures identified in the EIR are implemented and documented. Since this report was drafted the DA and the LDA have been executed. And there was a question about why we're doing this action now as opposed to earlier. The EIS portion of it was carried by the Corps and had to do with the ROD and those other processes at the federal level. At this point, at the local level under CEQA, we're at the point where we may start to have environmental impacts in the project when we start to do the first initial segments of the federal project, land acquisition, and other things like that. As such, we think it's the right time to use the acceptance of the GRR by the board to have these other findings as required by CEQA. The initial scoping with the Corps will occur soon, and the board's recent actions and those of our partners are positioning this project to move really quickly if federal funding comes through. So again, it looks like the right time to do the actions requested under the resolutions. With that, I'll take any questions.
Okay, any questions? So I understand this correctly, the projects that we've done with the state have had other environmental documents that supported those projects. This one, and they were done prior to our federal project being.
Yes. So this is a program-level document.
Right.
And because we're moving really quickly on those other projects, they have project-specific documents. As we go forward and enter into the federal program and federal project, each increment that we do will have additional environmental analysis that'll tee off the GR, EIR. So this is the right place to adopt these actions and go forward from there and use this as our base document going forward.
Okay, very good. With that and no other questions, I'll make a motion for approval of resolutions 1904-01 and 1904-02.
And I'll second that, along with the other actions.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye?
Opposed? Seeing, hearing none, motion carries. Item 11, consideration of the update of the City of West Sacramento Floodplain Management Plan.
Good morning, members of the board. My name is Erin Rivas, and I'm here to present the City of West Sacramento Floodplain Management Plan update. The first city floodplain management plan was formally adopted by City Council on November 17, 2010 by Resolution 1077. The first floodplain management plan was developed to satisfy a condition of the United States Army Corps of Engineers Section 408 permit for the I Street Bridge Levee Improvement Project. Per the Section 408 permit, the floodplain management plan must be updated every 5 years or as more often as conditions require. The Southport Levee Improvement Project is currently under construction, and the same Section 408 permit conditions apply. Staff looked at other local floodplain management plans and realized that this was a really great opportunity to create a more robust, living, breathing document that could function as a useful flood protection tool for residents and staff. The update to the 2019 floodplain management plan will function as an implementation of current city planning and policy documents. It'll consider climate change and sustainability, such as GHG emissions, increase in GHG emissions and its effects on sea level rise and flooding. It will talk about the city's flood history and floodplain risk, provide new definitions for flood zone and flooding. It'll discuss land use and planning, current zonings and building code, emergency management efforts, such as the 2016 Emergency Operations Plan, levy and other structural improvements. It'll consider internal drainage improvements, risk communication, things like the PPI committee that's been formed, and the community rating system, the National Flood Insurance Program, and the levee security plan, which didn't actually exist in the initial plan. The benefits of the floodplain management plan update will be that it satisfies the United States Army Corps of Engineers Section 408 permit requirements associated with the levee improvement projects. It will provide a more robust floodplain management tool for staff and constituents. It will function as an implementation of the General Plan 2035. It aligns with the 2017 City Council Strategic Plan top priority flood protection and the city mission to provide quality municipal services, quality city infrastructure and facilities, and to inspire community improvements that add value to the lives of our residents. And that concludes my presentation. Are there any questions?
Sorry, oh my gosh. And this will go to council? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I had a chance to look through this. It's a pretty comprehensive program put together, and, with the goals of keeping the community safe and improving our flood protection issues. So that's the goal, and that makes sense. Just a few comments in reading through it. I know this is a kind of a city-centric report project because of their responsibilities for the floodplain management, but they do discuss some of the plans or moving forward with, like, participating in the regional floodplain plan, and it talks about the city participating, which they do, but really through WSAFCA. And in some of those areas, I think, and some of the strategies of levee maintenance and stuff, it talks about city staff and stuff. And, I would like to possibly see a little more description of the reclamation district's involvement and WSAFCA involvement in some of these areas. Now, we all understand there's, some processes going on that may change, the governance down the road, but at this point, that's where we are. So I don't know if it's too late to do that, but I think the overall intent here is, and the report is fine. And so I would move for approval to recommend the city adopt it, and possibly with some minor clarifications and modifications. So, and then secondly, in the staff report, it discusses the budget and funding of this effort, and it talks about it being allocated to different department home cost centers. And if possible, if you guys could provide this board with a breakdown of those costs, would be grateful, because WSAFCA has a participation effort, but some of these areas, are not our responsibility, and I'd like to just see how it was costed out for the city for this effort.
And that's a separate request, separate from this?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just a, separate request that hopefully they can fulfill. So with that, I would make the motion to recommend that recommend the city council approval of the report.
I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Seeing no negatives, motion carries. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, on to the flood report.
I'll be delivering the flood report today. First of all, I want to draw your attention to a memo that was presented by Jen Tran regarding the qualified professional services that was awarded last month. Northwest Hydraulic Consultants and Geology Geotechnical Engineering box was inappropriately marked approved instead of, so the list was just corrected, and this is just a note that who's actually qualified to do that work.
Okay.
Moving on, in terms of cultural resources, we're working towards closing out our requirements for the Section 106 permit. A report has been submitted to the Army Corps of Engineers working with our consultant from GEI. And our future efforts, just to kind of finish up, is to work with the tribes to return islets to the site. In terms of Southport, the restoration project, beyond the authority that you provided today, we had a meeting yesterday with the Army Corps of Engineers environmental staff. This is an introductory meeting we had with them to try to engage them in the process so that the work that we're doing for floodplain restoration will qualify for mitigation for future federal projects. We've been trying to engage with them for an extended period of time, and so we're really happy that they were able to make some time and consideration for us, and if the person that attended the meeting is going to be our regular person, I think that we'll be in really good stead. She has a really good understanding of mitigation, advanced mitigation, and what it's like to be a contractor. I'm also happy to report that the Central Valley Flood Protection Board took action on our local design agreement and design agreements. So now we have a three-party agreement with the Army Corps of Engineers. That agreement is moved on to the division, to the district, excuse me. We're waiting for the colonel's signature, and then we'll have a fully executed design agreement that lays forth the opportunity for us to start working on our scope of work for our first reach and begin design. So happy about that. I don't have much to report other than what's written about the 1043 program. Spring break has caused a little lapse in information. We know that there has been some disagreement from some congressional delegates relative to this program, but we're still trying to proceed with our best foot forward, regardless of whether or not we go through that or we go some other way to get our full PED funding and then hopefully even construction funding to move the next project. That concludes my report.
One clarification on the DA, since Paul was out on spring break in the Bahamas last week. Both the DA and the LDA have been fully executed, and all the parties have their copies now, so we're ready to roll on that.
Okay, very, very good, very good. Any questions? Well, no questions, just a comment on the federal stuff. We're kind of, again, seems to go through every 6 months, but we're at a critical point here, and we just need to keep our fingers in the mix back there, and hopefully they will come to agreement on the 1043 program. I mean, it's kind of interesting that it had overwhelming support when it was added to WRDA back in 2014, 16. I can't remember which one, but now they're haggling over implementing it. I think we'll get there, but regardless, either way, we'll just keep at it. So that's it. Any comments?
I do have, not related to the report. Are we at the director's comment?
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yesterday, I had the opportunity to meet with Sydney Lewis, who's the Sacramento District Director for Senator Harris, and she was meeting with all the council members in West Sacramento and wanted to know our priorities, and of course, flood protection's top of the list for me and for the council. And sharing that with her, she let me know, and I don't know if staff knows this, but Senator Harris has an online appropriations request process, so that if we wanted support for projects here, that we can go online. Apparently SAFCA does that and works closely with the office. So I'm happy to share the information. Sydney Lewis is happy to facilitate things for us. So I wanted to share that, and it was a really productive meeting. And then we will be back at Cap to Cap year.
Yes.
And so we'll have a set of meetings, so I'm sure we'll share the outcomes of those or the updates at our next meeting.
That's great. We need every contact we can to keep our name in front of them, and Senator Feinstein is also on the ranking member of that Appropriations Committee as well. So between the two of them, hopefully we'll get some progress. So with that, I believe we're adjourned. Thank you.